Welcome to Send Growth AI Podcast, where we mix smart growth moves with a little AI magic. I'm Theresa. Let's dive in. Today's guest is David Thuro, CEO of Thuro Metal Products, a company known for precision, quality, and customer-centric operations. David is leading the charge to scale through strategic growth, smart automation, and a modern, no silos approach to supply chain excellence. He has a keen interest in simplifying all aspects of his operation. So, David, welcome. Can you start by sharing your background and the story behind Thuro Metal Products?
We're a family-owned company, and we have been for now 60 years. We hit that milestone in January. My dad was an immigrant from post-war Europe, specifically Germany, and he was a very talented machinist and machine builder. And as a young person, I would say, well, a young adult, he got interested in building gliders. When he was in his early 20s, he had a passion for innovation as well as teamwork. So he was with his buddies, one of the founding members of a glider club that formed shortly after the end of World War II. He was born in 1934 and he immigrated in 1956 to the United States, and that's where his life in America began. So I don't know. I guess I'm first generation, and he was my mentor. One interesting thing about me is I had lunch with him every day. I had about 6,000 lunches with him. And, I'm 54. He would be, if he was still around, do the math, 91. And having a mentor be somebody who went through World War II saw, some of the most modern changes in modern history. If you look at what occurred from 1934 until his death in 2020, modern jet travel, the information revolution, the automobile. His parents, they didn't even use the telephone. And here we are. So I feel pretty blessed to have sort of stepped and straddled the line between how things were and how they are, and seeing that trajectory of how things may be 20 years from now is pretty interesting. So having the perspective of him, he was very open with me about his life and his experiences. War-torn Europe. He was in war-torn Europe, and the stories are just pretty incredible of what they went through, and his appreciation for this country and for democracy and for freedom and for the opportunity that America offers to people that are willing to take risks. Very much has shaped who I am. So, yeah, that's my greatest influence. You didn't quite ask that question, but that's really colored who I am. He had such an impression on me, and we spent so much time together that I'm forever shaped, and so are the people that work with me. That he also greatly influenced in his experience and in his quest to always, do it better. He would say if there's a better way to do it, we need to find it. And so I guess that our passion is innovation and to, utilize new technology for a really productive thing, for not for entertainment, although I need entertainment, I think is key, but for keeping planes flying and cars moving. I would say that, one of the things that we realized during COVID is if we stop making the products we make, the world stops moving.
Wow.
And so we're like little elves, that make these little precise parts that go into jet engines and go into seat recline mechanisms on aircrafts and ATM machines and all kinds of mechanical things that move things. That's one of the commonalities, I think, with the product we make, whether it's fluid or, money within an ATM. The world now with all the automation requires, especially when things are used in high use, like an ATM, in a demanding environment, they're usually made out of metal. They prefer plastic. Metal is not the most inexpensive thing to make something out of, but it's the most durable. We do machine some plastic, but we very much are experts in precisely machining things out of metal that are usually used in industrial applications.
Okay. Yes.
I was the youngest. He had me when he was 30, he had my sister when they were 20. So yeah, that's my background. I was trained by a German machine builder and very much was exposed to, the most advanced technology in machining at a very young age.
I saw the other day that Thuro Metal Products was recently recognized by Base Systems for outstanding performance. And so
Right.
congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Can you share more about what went into earning that award and what that journey meant for your team and the operations?
So when I reflect on that, I'm using a term recently, and it's called radical openness. And my dad, I mean, get back to my dad, we were radically open with each other. And if you want to grow and become all you could become, which I think is the point of life, is to become what you're meant to become and all you can become in the environment and with your God-given gifts. You have to really be open, and you need feedback, right? So what was kind of cool about that event was BAE sent a team of what they would call process improvement or lean. Lean manufacturing is a catchword, but they sent a team of experts in, and for 5 days we reviewed our general process. It wasn't, product or part specific, it was process. And a lot of it, when I think back to the checklist and the action items, a lot of it did have to do with how we handled information, and some of it had to do with other forms of organization within the facility, but information, and we were up until that point, and we are even to this day very machine centric. That's our safe spot.
Mhm.
But I guess getting out of your safe spot, is the thing that we did. And, that was sort of a critical success factor. I think I had realized after that event that we needed to focus on other things beside our core competency of cutting metal in a very precise way. And it was how we procured the material, it's how we managed the vendors, it's how we did secondary processing of the product. It was standardizing all of our data collection, regardless if it was at an expensive machine tool or not. So standardization, looking beyond our core process and getting that input from a customer. And then they have a program where they recognize their top vendors who have, almost perfect delivery and quality scores for a year.
Right.
And we would go to they'd call them a symposium, and we'd go to the symposium and we would sit there, and we're human beings, right? We have egos. And other people would get up and have their picture taken with the top brass. And we started saying, well, why can't that be us? And, I would say most of what we did was because we knew it would make a better business, but there was also that there's a cherry on top, and that's going to be, being recognized. And I think we all need to take that as a lesson, right? How people want to be recognized, right? So they put time and effort in. It took us about 3 years to do everything that they recommended. But after about 36 months, we had every every single suggestion that we thought needed to be implemented within 3 years. From 2000 to 2023 was implemented. In 2024, we virtually shipped no defects to them,
That's
virtually
amazing.
none. I think
Wow.
there were, out of 10,500 units, we had 15 with a slight problem. But our delivery was about 100%, and our quality was 100%. And it's led to new business opportunities. That's the whole idea of that. It's not just the recognition, but it's their preference to buy it from their partners who pretty much are there for them and demonstrate it through 100% quality and delivery, as well as jumping through hoops when asked.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's something to be very proud of, and it sounds like you guys deserve that award. So congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
What makes your company different in the manufacturing or service space?
So what makes us different? A great question, right? Unique selling proposition. So, excuse me, I would say it's the diversity of the technology that we deploy. I'd also say from a real top level, one thing that we have developed primarily in the last, I'd say 20 years, we're in absolutely two distinct markets. So, like we discussed, we have 55 people, about $10 million a year in sales, and we're just about split down the middle between two markets. One is automotive and industrial, and the other is aerospace and defense. And I got to tell you, they're distinctly different in certain ways. And us figuring out how to leverage the differences and to mitigate, the challenges of basically running two businesses simultaneously
Mhm.
has been also something that I think differentiates us. I mean, yes, there's large companies, that are conglomerates, and they're in multiple marketplaces, right? But for a small company, a company with less than $20 million to be split down the middle is atypical. And what does it do? It allows us to take some of the best tools that we use in the automotive market and where applicable, use them for our aerospace clients and also in reverse. So I think what sets us apart, to get right to the heart of your question, is we have an expanded toolkit. Having by being in these two distinct markets that do have some market centric tools. So, aerospace is usually known for high mix, low volume. Automotive is usually known for lower mix, higher volume. I mean, there's
Opposite.
factories that make one model and they've had to become more flexible with trim levels. Automotive can be huge scale, right? And we're making these. And I mean, there's a lot of people that are supported by the Boeing 737 platform, right? And, but in planes, Boeing's trying to make 40 planes a month on that platform. And on certain car models, I mean, they're making 40 pieces an hour, 40 cars an hour,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And so you need sometimes different tools for different markets. So, we make some parts for aircraft that we're making 300,000 or 400,000 units a year. It's not 3 or 4 million like it could be for automotive, but we're able to take the tools that we use for higher volume aerospace product that we know how and are experts at using in automotive and apply those tools to aerospace for those areas of that market where the volume exceeds a certain threshold.
Wow. That's really interesting. It sounds like two completely business models that you guys are handling and you have zero defects. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, and we have to treat them. We have to respect that. We have to know exactly what those differences are, and we have to make provisions
Right.
for that.
Right.
Yeah,
Now, I know you want your business to be known more as a service business versus manufacturing. How
correct.
does it change how you lead and grow the organization?
So, okay, we want to be known as a service, and how are we going to facilitate that? Is
Yes,
that the question?
correct.
How do I think that we're going to move from thinking of ourselves as someone who makes a product to a company that provides a service? That's the
Correct.
question.
Correct.
So, yeah, I mean, great question. So, service goes way beyond the physical product, in my opinion.
Mhm.
When I think about service and we were discussing companies like Amazon, right? Think of Lyft, right? Think of Uber, right? Think of disruptors in any space, right? Their point of delivery and their method of delivery and their ease of use is probably disruptive. That's probably what makes them disruptive, right? Is the user experience, right? So when we say that we want to become more service oriented, and that's our goal. First of all, when I hire people, we have new interns. I gave them the quiz. I said, what do you think, service or manufacturing? What are we doing? And it's manufacturing. And I said, yeah, I said that for the first 30 years, but that's not what I believe anymore. I believe we're a service company, and let me tell you why. It's because, especially like we went back to BAE, right, and that radical openness. We used to think we were the best, right? We're kind of us centric, right? And as we go to a service company, we become customer centric, and their
Yes.
input and their feedback is what's most important. And even as we market, right now we don't market as much features and benefits. Our marketing is going now that we're getting to be recognized by leading OEMs. We also recently were recognized by Parker Aerospace. 5 years of zero defects. They delegated us to deliver jet engine parts stock to stock. We had such a good quality record with them, and it took a long time to establish that. We just, focused on quality, right? Not even on marketing, but these experiences, again, with modern marketing, right? It's about people raving about a product. I can't believe how it always gets there when I need it. And it's so easy to use and it's so user friendly, right? And that's what we have to be. I mean, I think we will achieve that. And I think we're getting into that realm, not by features and benefits and, it's the product, but it's the experience. And to be a manufacturer who makes parts for jet engines and to be focusing so much on user experience, I think also sets us apart, right?
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a different shift in mindset. So thank you for sharing that. So I know you have a big goal, right? You want to grow from 10 million to 15 million. What time frame do you want to achieve that in, and what's driving that push right now?
So we want to get our order book to bring in that level of business within 2 years, right? So there's two things. The leading indicator is going to be the order book. That's going to the backlog. I mean, and we have to get to that. That's going to be an aha when we're booking. Divide that, measure it quarterly. When we get to quarterly bookings that are somewhere 3.5, $4 million, sustain it, not just hit it, and come down, but sustain it. So that's going to be within 2 years. That's the goal. That's what the budget's going to support. And then usually with the way our order cycle runs, for it to hit revenue, it's going to take another 6 months to 9 months. So I would say by 2029, 2028, we would like to pop the champagne cork that year and have sales that average, quarterly sales that are in the 3.5 to $4 million range. But first, we're going to have to have a marketing and business development infrastructure that's scaled up to support five, six, seven strategic accounts. And our goal is, we work with strategic accounts. It's to get in with the right people like a BAE or a Parker Aerospace, scale with them. There's other similar competitors in the market, also serve them, obviously with the utmost of confidentiality, but grow that way. So there are certain products that we are more familiar with the market, and there's certain industries, aerospace and defense. And no, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity, specifically in the defense sector, with the defense spending worldwide going up with the turmoil, and that's where we started the company, really in the defense sector in the 70s, in the late 60s and 70s, and we diversified in the 80s and 90s with the end of the Cold War into automotive and industrial. I mean, how did we wind up with two separate businesses? Well, these sectors have sometimes really outperformed, so the defense sector was pretty hot, in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And then with the fall of the Berlin Wall, we make really precise stuff, and, we started making things for certain niche automotive markets. We focused on the more mission critical areas of the car, like steering and braking, where, our customers would pay a premium because of safety concerns. So that's kind of how you parlay from one industry to the other. Now, you don't necessarily serve the whole industry, but if you're, aerospace is high quality. Like we always say, there's no pulling over to the side of the road,
Mhm.
in an airplane, because the part in the engine was made wrong. That it's a whole different level of concern for quality, right? And
Right.
automotive is very quality oriented also, except it's extremely pragmatic.
Mm.
So if it's not a safety critical part, it becomes very, very cost conscious. But we were making a lot of parts that were used in the mechanisms that would keep the park from rolling down a hill. And for that, they would go to companies such as us who have a higher appreciation in systems for guaranteeing quality right the first time,
Yep.
right every time.
That makes sense. And then, so you've mentioned, strategic accounts like BAE. Like, what makes a customer ideal for you?
So an idea, if I would tell you today who our ideal customer is, right? It is somebody with a high care and concern for quality, right? I would say that we also deal with some smaller companies that make a very niche product that they take great pride in. So I would say that we are first and foremost craftspeople. We want to do it right. Do we need to make money? Absolutely. We need a profit. We don't have a printing press. And the way we make money is by making the product right the first time. Having a good environment for our people, benefits, K, stable working hours, areas for opportunity, areas for advancement within the company. So an ideal customer absolutely is not coming and saying, I need it cheap, but they have a real appreciation for the long-term value they get through a partnership. I would say the other thing that we seek with any new account acquisition is people that want to partner up. Right on the bottom in my signature in my email, as we communicate, it says, you need more than a part, you need a partnership. When we did our 2011 rebrand, that became an important thing. And I talk about all the time with my people how we can be good partners.
Mm.
What partnership looks like. I think saying it is different than doing it. And so as we grow, even living more out what it means to be a partner and what defines us, and I've had customers tell me, we really like that. You've lived that out by doing this for us.
Hmm.
by doing that for us, not being asked, right? That's really important. So our ideal customer is very focused on quality, right the first time, right every time after that, not having to put extra measures to sort and to test our product. They know it's going to work right. They want a degree of flexibility.
Hmm.
If you're not going to stake your claim to price, you're going to have to stake your claim to quality, flexibility, and service. You know, all of a sudden they made an oops. Somebody should have ordered it,
Hmm.
7 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago, and you find a way, although you quoted 8 weeks, 12 weeks, you find a way to start getting them product within, 4 weeks,
Right.
So we're very much cognizant about our mission is to keep your line running. Yes, if the product is not specification, that's the biggest no-no in the world. That does nobody any good. But if it's 100% the spec, but it doesn't arrive when you need it, or you don't have the volume to keep the line running, it's another huge no-no. So when we look at any opportunity, it's not just can we be cost competitive, right? Can we meet the quality? I mean, that's a given, but we have an obligation as they scale up or scale down their needs to scale up or scale down with them and not say, well, it's 4 o'clock, we're going home. We have an obligation to keep their lines running with good product in the quantity they need when they
Yep.
need it. And
Yeah.
again, that's to the service end of it, beside the product itself.
Right. Makes sense. And to get to your big goal, like how many strategic accounts do you need to get there?
I think strategic new accounts, we would need about 6 or 7, and I think that we'll find that we'll develop the other third.
Hmm.
Maybe that gets us to two thirds of where we need to go,
Yep.
right? Which is adding, if we look at 5 million a year and we divide that by four, it's a million in a quarter of more order uptake while maintaining. There's attrition. The thing I think we always got to be careful of, we have to overshoot because there's going to be some attrition. With all of the way, being really good at what you do and being cost competitive, products still become obsolete. I'll tell you one thing interesting about our business, just for a minute, maybe 30 seconds. If I was to give you a tour, you know, we got some cool stuff going on. The thing that always amazes me the most is the longevity of certain products we make. It's interesting. We're doing a value stream map with a customer on a part that, and I was just talking to one of our young engineers that I think has been in existence since the 40s.
Wow.
It's a fitting that, feeds a farm animal,
Wow.
water,
Hmm.
and we're looking at the fourth iteration, major change in how we produce the part. So, it's an interesting business, that we're in because unlike maybe consumer electronics or fashion, certain mechanical designs, and it seems like a lot of the ones we're involved with are, I would say the average product life cycle, is 30 years, 20 years.
Wow.
And we still have our first customer and we're still making some of the first parts we've ever made from them. And they were from the 60s.
Wow. That's
Now we
amazing.
make it on different equipment. We clean it in different equipment. We inspect it with completely different equipment, right? But the physical end product, even the raw material, is the same. So, really trying to get it right the first time, right? The right process, the most correct process, the right gauging, the right whatever, getting it right up front sometimes can pay dividends for a long time. And look, our job as in what we do, like I was telling my son, we have to integrate new technologies as it comes along. To get to the fourth iteration of that part, we may be doing things completely different than we're doing them now,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so we make what's called the value stream map of the existing process, what we do to the product, what they do to the product, and we try and eliminate any of the waste, the queue times, the excessive travel, any of the quality issues, to
Yep.
try and reduce the waste, and everything that occurs with that part is ideally there to add value.
Mhm.
And all of the steps keep flow going. Anytime flow is interrupted in a manufacturing process, it adds cost, you
Right.
know?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun that we know the parts are gonna stay around. The process that we make them, we need to be open in these partnerships with customers when they come and they're like, well, that price, you want to keep that part, the existing cost structure is gonna have to skinny up. And it's like, okay,
Hmm.
We're not in a market where we can cut benefits or or reduce wages. We're in a fight for talent.
Yep.
So we're going to have to reduce all of the waste, and we're going to have to partner up and get together and discuss it from 10,000 feet. And then we're going to have to get into the micro, go from the macro to the micro, and we're going to have to weed out any waste, using these tools that we've been taught by our partners. They've taught us, we started as machinists, and people like BAE and Parker Aerospace and countless others from around the world have come into our factory and taught us these modern techniques that were pioneered by Toyota when they were about to go bankrupt. The TPS, the Toyota production system, spawned, so much interest in what's called lean management, lean principles, which have gone from manufacturing companies to banks to you name it.
That's fantastic. And so to get your strategic accounts, how do you currently find leads and what's
So
working?
right now, our go-to-market strategy is trade shows. They're good for us, with all of the digital support I think that we have to do to support the whole decision process, the whole vetting process. I think people still want to, meet face to face. So we go to certain trade shows. That's going to increase as we go and need to scale. We're going to scale with more personnel, and we're going to scale with a better digital platform, and we're going to go to more trade shows, and we're going to be doing more customer visits, and we're going to be way more intentional in what we do and how we do it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, LinkedIn, digital branding, and obviously, the better that we execute within our facility and what we do, the more opportunities. It's really easy to sell and market when you really perform well. It
Right.
opens doors.
Yes.
So, we haven't really had to do much selling and marketing because we've just done what we need to do.
Right.
And maybe then people, you have a sales force that you don't even pay,
Hmm.
right? The net promoter score, I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yes.
Very important, right? If you're buying a company, one of the most important things you want to know is, would their customers buy from them again? Would they recommend, them to a friend or a family member that they care about, right?
Yep.
And you can make a score, and it's not always 100, and 100's really hard to hit because everyone has an opinion, and occasionally even we drop a ball,
Mhm.
right? But if the majority of people are, and you can create some raving fans, and then you can leverage that. So while we chase growth, I would say we have to be radically focused on execution.
That's a good strategy. So in your operations, you implemented serious automation, right? Lights out factories since the 90s, zero defects. I mean, that's just unbelievable. Where are you seeing the next big opportunity for innovation inside your business?
I think it's how we use the information that we capture. So we're using a lot of systems right now to capture very efficiently the dimensional data on products. I've really become interested in what's called instant measurement and Factory 4.0, right? That's been a buzzword for 10 years or more. And what is you're starting to see, I said, okay, now we can quickly capture real time data. I see the next big innovation is, like we talked about, the de-siloing of people, the de-siloing of information, and also with AI, the proper analysis of critical data and the timely delivery of that information to influencers, people that can influence the process. So as we look at platforms, I think unfortunately most of the data providers today, they for some reason
Yes.
their information. And we've come across a few. I had a very, very enlightening trip to the oldest engineering college in America. It's Rensselaer RPI, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York. I was there last May, one
Hmm.
year ago.
Hmm.
And they have some wonderful faculty.
Hmm.
And they're building things, the students are building things in an integrated fashion and using the data in an open environment, and they get it. And so I'm excited to work with some of the kids from RPI, right? And I've never thought about, we don't have coders. I mean, we use lots of software and lots of product, but I think we need to get into some coding. I think understanding that aspect from the granular level so we can understand things. I mean, we prefer to buy everything prepackaged. I don't want to develop something that already exists. We're again, our skill set is implementing tools that other people develop
Right.
and scaling them.
Right.
Do I want to become a company in the next 5 years that develops? I have a dream one day, and I think it's going to exist and someone's going to develop it. We have machine operators and they're going to have GPS. It's going to be GPS and they're going to be wearing, God knows, Google glasses and they're going to be getting, real time information on where to be. I mean, see it like I told you, I got involved in boating, right? And I bought a pretty modern boat.
Hmm.
And it's not the biggest boat in the world. I didn't want to impress people and be able to take 15 people out on my boat, right? But what I wanted to have is really, really state of the art electronics. And I go places other people don't would never dare to go because I have really, really good electronics and I know how to use them. It's not just having the tool,
Hmm.
right? It's knowing how to use the tool and having the dream and the desire to go someplace you've never been before,
Yes.
right? You got to have those three things. You got to have the dream and desire, right? To go someplace you've never been before. Then you got to find the tools, and then you got to test, implement, use and the tools, and test and try and implement them again until you have a full understanding of them. And then when there's another inflection point in the technology, adopt to it. I'm hoping like for my marine experience that we can take operators who have 2 or 3 years of training and let them have the productivity of an operator with 20 years of training who
Hmm.
knows where to be when they have to be there proactively before a bad product is made because not because they're the most skilled people, but because we're giving them better tools.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you, what does knowledge transfer look like right now? Like, how are you
Well,
capturing expertise?
after a conversation, AI and how we do that, I mean, look, in my role to be effective, right? I have to get the timing right. I have to work in a routine. I have to understand the strategy. I have to be really open to new ideas and I have to be super collaborative. So half of being successful is great soft skills. And I am a huge believer in a good education, a really good education. Good education allows people to adapt to new things quickly, right? As long as their values align with the organization, right? So, with our data, back to that, we have to, really start with smart people,
Yep.
right? And we have to, not teach them, how to use the tools, but we have to give them a project and then we have to give them exposure to the tools and then they have to select the right tools. So every time I'm evaluating something, I'm constantly saying, well, what's the right tool? So we have to get them project and end goal focused, and then over time give them full exposure to the tools that we use in our respective positions to deliver the results our customers want. So a lot of it's standard work, finding out that's what we do as well. What does the position entail? And getting people together and getting them to share their ideas and then to get them to standardize in a document or into a video the key aspects of it
Hmm.
and then agree that's how it gets done. So, in some ways, although we want people to bring creativity, when you come and you're new, we want to tell you, well, this is how we do it.
Yep.
Over time, it may evolve, and we want you to bring your ideas into any process. But you really need for customer experience, if that's where it is, have standard work and
Right.
then have a format and an environment where we can utilize better tools over time, again, to simplify the work,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Not to make it more complicated. So
Exactly.
some of our manuals go like this. They get thinner, like our quality manual over the years has gotten actually much thinner. And it's actually through the use of software,
Hmm.
right? If you set your software up correctly, it prompts you what to do. And I never want to use the word idiot proof, but utilizing the right tools and the right software and, training people how to interpret the information and use it accordingly is the idea for them not having to look and figure out forever where's the problem? What do I do next?
Right.
But getting them to the tools to spot the problem before it occurs and then training them on different courses and corrective actions to take.
Yep.
And again, like we discussed, proactiveness. How do I get my whole team to work in a proactive nature,
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
reactive?
Yes.
We're very unproductive in a reactive nature. Although I have to have time in my calendar every day for that call from the customer that comes in and says, "Oh my goodness, I should have ordered 4 weeks ago. What are we going to do?" Or the other guy, we didn't design it right, and your part and his part doesn't fit together. We need help. So I do, by trying to be proactive constantly, it gives us some bandwidth to be reactive and again be a better partner,
Right.
because we have bandwidth. Create wherever you can using the right tools, create bandwidth every day to be creative and to problem solve. That's something that we try and teach.
Yeah, I agree with that. So for the next generation of skilled workers, what are things that you look for that you didn't have to look for before?
So first of all, it's their ability to work in a team. So they have to fit 100% the culture of the organization. So, we no job is beneath us. If the customer needs it, this idea, well, I could do it, but I don't think it's my job. Look, if it needs to get done and we have to have a committee to figure out to do it, we like people that see what needs to be done, don't feel like they have to ask permission to do the obvious and go do it. So self-starting, team-oriented, customer-focused, radically honest, and willing to accept feedback, positive and negative. I think that's what we want. And we have to model that. We want to run really an organization that's fully a meritocracy. I believe hugely in meritocracies. I mean, in nepotism and in patronage, it's something that I don't embrace, right? We're very much in a performance-based culture. So if you're going to work here, you got to want to be in a performance-based culture because about every 10 years, we have to become 20% more productive with our labor.
Hmm.
And if we don't accept that reality, and it's through innovation. So if you love innovation, it's either we do it or we die, right?
Yep.
There can't be too much debate on if we're going to be proactive or we're going to wait for for something to really nudge us off of our current comfort spot, right?
Right.
So yeah, I'm excited about young people. I mean, I really where some people in my age brag, oh my gosh, they're always on their phones. You got to engage them, you got to challenge them, you got to give them big challenges that are way more exciting than TikTok.
Right. Yes, agree. If you could solve one major challenge today, what would that be?
It would be the skilled labor. I mean, the whole industry is facing a rapid aging out of people that are really, really talented.
Hmm.
And it took them a really, really long time to get there. And the only way we're going to solve it is if we can get somebody within 5 to 10 years to maybe what in the past took 30 years and even have them be far more productive than that person would be by having, by starting with the right person, by having really intentional training and onboarding programs, right? And by really, yeah, there can be some huge game changers in technology with productivity. And really, I guess what's really interesting, right, with the information, it's really not having much middle management. It's really self-directed. Now, these things have been in Word, Indeed forever, and middle management is administration. We don't really use much administration, and every position needs to do some administration. I need to do some administration every day. I mean, every position probably has to spend an hour to two in what we would call administrative work,
Hmm.
right? And hopefully you're spending 5 or 6 hours in creative work, right? For at least 4 or 5 hours in alone creative work. We're creators here, right? And then an hour and a half in collaborative work, right? With customers, with coworkers, right? And I think that's a good day, right? So having to, it scared the heck out of me when I saw a survey that said, I think when some big survey was done, and I mean, people were spending like 15 to 20% of the time looking busy. I mean, when you have to window dress for middle management or for somebody, I
Hmm.
think that's the biggest waste of time. I think anybody that's worked in a hierarchical corporation, you're window dressing. And the thing I think thank God for every day is we don't have to show off to anybody. We come and we want to create, we want to collaborate. And yeah, I got to fill out some stuff. I'm working in a modern. I got to sometimes renew my registration or fill out a form or send the paperwork over to the bank to finance a piece of equipment, and that's administrative work. And the people we work with, I want them to make that radically simple, just like I want our customers to find it radically simple to deal with us. Because the more we can create in our own respective professions, the more joy, the more value we have, and the more financial success we'll enjoy.
Yeah.
And you know what financial success does? When we leave, it allows us to do whatever we want to do,
Right.
right?
You mentioned to me yesterday you have a no meetings policy. That I found that really unique. Can you talk through that?
Yeah, so I would say I read a book called Design for Operational Excellence, by I think the author's name is Kevin Dugan, and it was about the time we did the BA, a little bit after we had the BA Kaizen. It's called the Kaizen when you have these events, right? And really, we've been to facilitate that. It's challenged us to make sure that everybody knows what to do without having to be told or asked, right? It's like, well, that sounds great on paper, but what's the work behind that, right? It's changing the culture from where we used to have a 40-minute every day all hands meeting with not the whole company, but I would say with 15, 16 key people. And it was like that old school where people are expected to be told what to do. And we can't work like that anymore. People have to know exactly what they do and why it's important. And they have to be given the tools and they have to be given access to all the information and they have to be given latitude on making decisions. Right. And, you know, we kind of, in one way to free up space to do those things is just to stop having meetings. And it doesn't mean we don't talk and we don't collaborate, but it sends a message that we expect you to know what to do. And if you don't know what to do, come and ask. We have an open door policy. It doesn't mean that we don't have discussions and people can't say, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what I do is I go through the plant just about every day. I have a routine and it's called the Gemba. The Japanese have all these words.
Mm-hmm.
The Gemba is the place where the work happens.
Yep.
We understand that what I do supports them. They don't support me, right? That we make product, and if we don't make product and ship product, customers aren't happy. And so the whole operation supports the manufacturing of the product. And so I need to go visit them. And if they need to visit me, come visit me. But, telling people what to do on a daily basis is a sign of an unhealthy organization.
Right. Right. I mean, I think that's amazing. I've never seen that or experienced that, and I think it's fantastic that you implemented that policy. That makes a lot of sense. If you, as a leader, what are tips that you would give to those who want to aspire to be CEO of a business one day?
Oh, interesting. I mean, what I would tell my kids, right, is whatever you do, do it to the best of your ability, right? If it's sweep the floor, sweep the floor. Everything is with passion and with importance, right? You love that thing about when they put men on the moon. The guy sweeping the floor, he wasn't sweeping the floor. He was helping that guy get on the moon because if he slipped and fell, right, he wasn't going anywhere, right? So I think, people that are really passionate about what they do, and it's hard, it's hard sometimes to be passionate. I mean, I find interest in a lot of things. It comes sort of naturally, but I often don't ask for promotions or I didn't ask for opportunity. I mean, I do carry the name,
Right. Hmm.
but I never vied for much. I just did I did a really good job, whether it was in college. I had a lot of fun, I would say pre-20, but once I got to be 20, I realized my success was going to be based on my attitude, as well as my ability to do and see what needs to get done. And not just do what you're asked, in an organization, really see what's lacking. And if they have a decent culture, they're not going to chastise you for doing what makes sense. And
Hmm.
yes, I mean you can't go and fire your coworker. There's a way. There's tact and there's patience and but just do what you got to do. Don't get too involved in the office politics, right? Don't be a yes man. I was not. My dad and I for those 6,000 lunches. I mean, people, I'd come out of there sometimes and they would, hand me a couple glass of water because they could hear the intensity and the yelling.
Wow.
And I didn't tell him what he wanted to hear.
Mm.
I had to do my research. If I talked out of a spirit of trying to one up or show that I, knew it all. But if you come with general care for the company and with the company and the organization's interest first, and you've done your research and you've done your homework, right? With him, if you were wishy-washy, he would roll right over you. So, I mean, I would tell people, be for the company. Either you're for the company or you go find a different job. Find a company that you can give your full self to. Yes. And I mean, maintain balance. I told my son yesterday, I said, as you start your career, I went a little bit too all in. even to
Yeah.
the point where I had to find some balance, 20 years in. I went all in with certain things, right?
Mhm.
And for the younger people, I don't ask people to necessarily do that. I think I could have gotten the same thing done without some collateral damage
Okay.
by
Yeah.
understanding have to also I got to empty the cup, but I got to fill the cup,
Yes.
right? And for you it may be different than me, right? And again, that's departing a little bit, but when you're there, if you're there for 6 hours or 8 hours, you're there. And
Right.
if it isn't the right place, move on. Do everybody a favor and find a place. If it takes 5 tries, 10 tries, don't stop until you find the place you belong. And then whatever whenever you're there, you're there.
Mhm.
You're not thinking about, it needs to engage you fully. That when you leave, fully disengage. So when you come back tomorrow, you're ready to go. And if you do that, you have a shot at being the CEO,
Right.
right?
That's fantastic tips to close with. Thank you. And so if people wanted to get in touch with you, where can they find you online?
LinkedIn. I would say I'm embracing LinkedIn more and more. So I've made wonderful friendships and I'm finding strategic business partners on LinkedIn. I think it's a wonderful thing to meet people
Mhm.
and to network. I look up David Toro on LinkedIn and send me an email.
Perfect. Well, thank you, David. I really appreciate your time today. That's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you got value, share it, tag it, and don't forget to hit the follow. Catch you next time on Ascend Growth AI.